To start your Monet's garden project, we're going to start with a paper with 2 curved lines on it for the bridge over the lily pad pond. First, turn your paper over and write your name and class code on the back with a pencil. And we're going to start by drawing vertical lines that go up and down inside the bridge shape. So I'm going to make my lines a little bit apart and go all the way through the curved bridge shape. Then we're going to draw the lily pads in the lily pad pond. So that's everywhere that's not the bridge. So we're going to start by drawing lily pads down towards the bottom of our paper. Notice how mine are kind of an oval shape. So we're going to draw ovals for our lily pads. As I get closer to the bridge, my ovals are getting a little bit smaller. The ovals that are closer to the bottom are bigger. That's because the objects that are close to you appear to be bigger. In real life, they are not, but when things are further away, they look smaller to us. So as I go above the bridge, my lily pads are going to become very small. So you need to draw small ovals above the bridge and bigger ovals below the bridge. We're going to add details on top to make the flowers of the lily pads. This will show depth and perspective in our artwork by changing the size of the lily pads. You should fill up most of your space with lily pads. You can even put some that go off of the page. Like here, I'm only drawing part of a lily pad. You can even draw some behind your bridge. These would be like medium-sized ovals because they are not in the front of our picture and not in the back. They're in the middle. Next, we're going to use oil pastels and we're going to trace our bridge. So we're going to use green and a little bit of brown for our bridge. So that means I'm going to go over my pencil lines with my oil pastel, tracing the shape of the bridge. When I'm tracing the pencil line, I'm making sure that my oil pastel looks nice and dark. Sometimes I'm going over the line more than one time. You can use the light green to add a little bit of variety in your color. So I am going back over the bridge lines with the light green. You can also add a little bit of brown to make your bridge lines really stand out. So I'm going to go back over my lines with the bright green and the brown. The next thing we're going to do is trace our oval shapes and color them in with the green pastels. I'm going to trace all mine with the dark green, and then I'm going to go back and color them in with the bright green. You can use the dark green too. I might add a little bit of it, but I'm gonna color them in with both colors. I'm gonna go ahead and do that to all of the ovals for my lily pads. Once all your lily pads are colored in, you can start adding flowers on top of your lily pads. You can use the warm colors of oil pastels for this, like pink, orange, and yellow. To draw them, you can draw short little vertical lines on top of each lily pad, almost like you are coloring a little spot. Try to switch colors so that not all the lily pads have the same color flower. And remember, the lily pads at the top of the picture are further away and are smaller because they're in the background. So when you draw your flowers there, make sure to draw them smaller than the flowers in the front or at the bottom of your paper. Now that I've drawn all the flowers on the lily pads, I'm going to add some grass on the bottom. I'm just going to draw some lines with my green oil pastel. I'm using the bright green here, and I'm going to go back after and use the darker green on top. And I can go right over the lily pads. This is creating some texture in my artwork, making it look like real grass that surrounds the lily pad pond in Monet's garden. Here I'm just layering the dark green on top. Now that I've finished with my grass, I'm going to use the blue oil pastel to draw little waves in the water area. Remember, this is a pond of water. When you use the blue oil pastel and draw little wavy lines in the water area, it will create a sense of movement and make it look like the water is moving a little bit like it would in real life. Once you have finished drawing little wavy lines with the blue oil pastel, then we're ready to move on to painting. We're going to use different cool colors for painting the water in our Monet's garden. So you will have green, turquoise, dark blue, purple, and this red violet to add to your water area. So when we looked at Monet's work, we noticed that he uses a lot of different colors in his water, not just blue, which we would typically think of water as being. So when I'm painting, I'm just using little brush strokes to paint with green, and then I'm going to rinse off my brush when I get a new color and try adding a different color. Here I'm using turquoise, doing the same motion, little taps of color to fill in my water area. We want to see all those colors blend together a little bit on our paper, not in our paint cups. We want to keep these nice and clean. Remember, with these paints, they are watercolors, so you have to wake them up to use them. So let's say that I want to use this red violet. It has not been used yet, and I need to wake it up. First, cleaning off my brush with water, and then waking up the color by adding water to it. I need to swirl my brush around on the color for a little while to wake it up. Wake up, red violet, it is time to paint. So here I'm just adding the red violet to the blue and green that I added, and you can see a purple come out when those colors blend together. We want to use a few different colors in our water, not just blue. So try to use at least 3 colors or more. You have a total of 5 to use. Every time you switch to a new color, you are going to clean your brush so our colors stay nice and clean. Remember to fill in all the little white spots, and you can paint right over your oil pastel. Like here, I'm painting right over this lily pad and it stays on the paper. The reason is because oil and water don't mix. They do something called resist, where the oil pastel stays on the paper and the paint goes around it. So I'm going to continue painting in the rest of my paper where it is white. All right, so it looks like I'm all done with my painting inspired by Monet's garden. When you're done, make sure you carry yours with your messy mat underneath to the drying rack. I can't wait to see how your Monet's garden painting turns out.